Now what?
You didn't wait until after the video.
You're right, I didn't. Now what?
Now I'm not sure what you hit because I can't see you at all.
I hit command.
So if anybody's watching and they can't see everything, we apologize for the technical snafu.
No, just blame me. It's me. It's Jean. It's my fault.
Hit command 3.
What?
Okay, I guess we're live.
We're live. I mean,
live. Oh man. Okay, so
Sitting on it, by the way, Keith, in case you're interested, is sitting on a thing that says intro video, but it didn't go on.
okay.
Okay.
So
Whatever.
Bye.
that's the problem with playing producer from over a really bad internet connection from far away.
Yeah.
Is that the artist? Yes. Someone's
Sure.
asking, is that the artist? That is Greg Hildebrandt, the artist.
Yes, that's Greg Hildebrandt, the artist here. And this is Keith Garlitz there. And you may wonder who Keith Garlitz is. He's a good friend, has been for many, many, many years. He used to work for Unicorn Publishing and Spiderweb Art. And he's a great artist. And he's the one that's doing this interview thing.
Well, thank you for the interview or the introduction, sir. Again, just not totally off with the with the tech stuff. But I hear you have a quote for me today. Do you have a quote?
Well, I like quotes because we started this last week. The quality of a person's life is in direct proportion to their commitment to excellence. Vince Lombardi, a coach.
Vince Lombardi. Yeah.
I mean, basically, that's it. True. I mean, the quality of your life is in direct proportion to your commitment to excellence. I mean, you are what you eat.
You are what you eat.
Right.
I have to think about that and chew on that one because
chew on it. In
a very Western civilization, we'll say yes, that is true.
Well,
anyway,
I mean, I don't know what the hell. It strikes me. I like it. You know what I mean?
I
argue
do too.
All these points,
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm glad you brought up that. I worked for Spiderweb Art. I met you when I first started working for Spiderweb Art 20 years ago now, right? And at that time, the reason why I'm bringing this up right now is that I see the Emerald Evening painting right behind you, which is the pinup. And I was in the office there at Spiderweb Art the first time you brought that home. And you put it around, you set it down. I really didn't know you at the time.
Yep.
I'd only seen you maybe one other time before that. But there was this excited buzz that you had just finished that painting and you were onto something new.
Right.
And Yeah, so I mean that my introduction to you was the introduction to Emerald Evening, which was the introduction to Pinup for you. Is that correct?
Exactly. I mean, that picture, I said to Jean, my now wife, my business manager, agent, you name it, my everything for the last 40 years. We had been through so many things together, project wise. She had her own publishing company. We did classics. We did the Marvel trading card set. We tons of stuff together. And finally, I said, I just wanted. I said to her, Jean, I want to do pinups. I want to do some pinup paintings. She's 14 years younger than me, so she didn't have a complete grasp on it. So I started doing a bunch of sketches, and I couldn't. I don't want to do fantasy pinups. I don't want to. I didn't know exactly what approach to take. I was drawing mainly women against whites. You know what I mean, like Vargas, a la Vargas.
Was it just something that you wanted to do, or
Yeah, well, I mean,
did you have a history with pinup at all, or?
I grew up with them. I mean, my grandfather, my father's father, had all the Gil Elvgren calendars in his basement. Gil Elvgren was one of the great pinup painters of the 30s, 40s, 50s, and into the 60s, really. And he had these calendars downstairs because in the day, back all the women went upstairs to go to the bathroom, and all the men went downstairs to go to the bathroom. And when it's downstairs in this Swiss German house that my grandparents lived in Detroit, where I'm from, it was you could eat off the floor. It was spick and span down. It wasn't like some grungy little basement. But he had all the calendars down there, and so you go down there and I remember seeing them when I was a kid, and you're not necessarily attracted to girls yet per se, but you are kind of. But also, I was also into art already, so the beauty of the paintings really knocked me out. So it kind of like got pinned there. But you went to the carnivals back in the day in Detroit. There were many of them, amusement parks. You go to the side, you do ring tosses and shoot at targets, and you'd win these chalk figures, and little carnival type figures, and there would be a lot of pinups there, a lot of girls, and
Okay.
so I mean, and then men's magazines were laying around the place. All the guys had these men's magazines, and there was always, photos. Betty Page, who was a major pinup model back in the day. So I got connected in that sense to pinup art.
Now, did you start? I mean, you're obviously you're pretty young, but I know that you also started art when you were pretty young.
Yeah.
Were you leaning towards that type of art style in your early years, like in your developmental years, or what was
No. I
going on
mean,
there?
I was mainly interested in well, yeah. I was drawing everything. I mean, Tim and I
Okay.
both, my twin brother, we drew everything. There wasn't any focus yet. We just drew. And I drew a lot of animals and out of animal books and photos. And I remember was drawing. I had a book on all the presidents of the United States, up to I guess it would be Harry Truman at this time, and I drew them all, every single president. So I kind of like my parents would sit and I draw from life from them, and anybody. Tim would sit, I would sit or stand or take a pose or do stuff. So we drew trees. We just drew. So yeah,
So whatever you ingested in, then it
right.
it came back.
But then by the time I'm a teenager, I'm starting to look at you become aware of girls obviously, and I'm drawing women. So here's some of the stuff I just kind of like I pulled out that I've had since I was a kid. I did this probably when I was 13.
Really?
And that would be taken from. I had a kid across the street who was older because I couldn't buy these magazines, these Fawcett publications, and this was Peter Gowan, who was a major pinup photographer back in the day, and he'd get these books and lend them to me and Tim, and we'd copy the pictures out of them. So I did a lot of that, along with everything else. I mean, I was drawing all kinds of things, and painting and building sets and miniatures and puppets and all kinds of
So
stuff.
I gotta stop you for just a second. So you did that when you were 13.
Yeah.
But you still have a drawing from when you were 13?
Yeah, it was in an attic in an old bread box that got stored there for a long, long time and totally forgotten about till it was found. I had a whole stack of them like this. A lot of them were animation drawings because Tim and I were totally into animation, and are very, very stylistic. And yeah, so
So wait, you found them in an attic? Is that what you said?
yeah. Well, a house that I had lived in the east side in Rochester, Michigan, after my parents moved out of Detroit to Rochester, which is 20 miles north of Detroit, and a lot of movement. My parents died, and everybody left the house, and then the house was just kind of like a sort of like left on its own. I'd moved to the East Coast, and some guy who was making his living off of going into old houses went into that house and found this in the attic. Found this bread box in the attic filled with these pictures, and they were signed and my signature on the bottom. I don't know if you can see it.
Not quite. Yeah, there we go. Okay.
So,
Oh my God, it looks
same block
exactly. It
signature
looks
that I
as if
used.
you signed it today.
Yeah, and he saw that and he contacted us and said, "I've got this," and he sent it to us. You know, he could have been gotten rid of them some other way, sold them, but he made sure that I got this whole stack of drawings.
That's
From
crazy. Like you
that,
found
those are,
a hidden Hildebrandt treasure.
yeah, the oldest drawings that I have. Probably some of them are in there if I was like 11 years old, 10 years old. You know.
Wow. So at 13, you already start drawing the female form, probably
Yep.
the male form too. But you're doing it and you're coming up. But I don't recall before Emerald Evening anything strictly pinup.
Well, I mean,
Coming
there
from
was
you.
some stuff that we did. Let's see, where I got some books here. More in the fantasy line, like for heavy metal back in the
Bring it
80s.
over a little bit. Oh, bring it over. It's off camera.
Yeah, there
Over
we
a
go.
little.
It is
Oh,
not,
okay. All right.
you know what I mean? Oh, let me get it straight in here. Whoop, oh, it's there. So, but there, I did a whole series of these things that were published by Verkerka. It was a Dutch publisher. They did posters, and then Heavy Metal used them for their covers. I did probably a dozen of these. So that's pinup-y, but it's more in the fantasy realm. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I was doing
Yeah.
that in the 80s, and then went on to do all kinds of other things, but still influenced and loving all those painters. You know, and people don't know this now, but there were three major female painters of pinup art. One of them was Zoe Mozart, who did this outlaw painting for Howard Hughes' movie with Jane Russell, and she was fantastic. She was one of the best there was. And of course, there were
What was her name again? What's her
Zoe
name?
Mozart, Zoemozert. She was great.
Okay.
And then there was Joyce Ballantyne was another. Pearl Frush, Frush. They were great. They were incredible painters, and they were as popular as Petty or Vargas or Elvgren, who were or Moran. These are the guy painters back in the day. But I was aware of all that kind of artwork, and Andrew Loomis, who I then got onto his figure drawing book. This is a book I had from 1955. It's all falling apart now, but you know he would teach you how to draw the human figure in this book, and they were quite pinup-y. As you can see, the women are all wearing high heels in his book, so that kind of like puts it in the category of pinup art, I think. You know.
Yeah.
So, but that I'm now 55. I'm my second year of high school, and I'm using that as a guide. Loomis was a fantastic teacher, and I use that and to work from and take his clues from, you know. So that's so I'm still drawing pinup-y type stuff into the 50s, you know, as a teenager.
Yeah, but it's not strictly.
No,
pinup.
I'm not taking it as the whole, trying to reflect the whole genre of pinup art. No, but you know.
Okay. So you were mentioning earlier there that you were doing all these sketches that were in the more vignette kind of style and things like that. So
To arrive at this, yeah.
okay, so you did that to
yeah.
did that to arrive. Now that that's clearly has a scene going on. Did you make it a conscious effort to move away from the vignette style, or that would be more stereotypical pinup, or?
Well, I kept doing these sketches, and I wasn't really entirely happy. I showed them to Jean, and she said, "Wait a minute, just do what you do. Tell a story." So she's the one that more or less guided me in that direction. Tell a story with the painting. So I said, "Aha, great." So she says, "Go do one and then show it to me." Normally we work on everything together, but she wanted to kind of like just see what I came up with before she had any involvement at all. So I came up with that. and I laid it all out. I got the models, and I've got, I'm in here from the back. My brother's in there. Various other friends are in the painting. Mark Romanowski, another artist friends in the foreground here. And
Yeah.
I painted the whole thing and showed it to Jean, and she loved it. And so she said that's one of the most beautiful things you ever painted, in her opinion. And so then I said, well, maybe we could get a show. And so she found the gallery in Manhattan, the Lou Meisel Gallery, that he's the guy that shows pinup art. He's the guy
Okay.
he had a major book published, The Great American Pinup, and he's the man to talk to as far as pinup art is concerned if you want to have a show in New York City. So she called him, and he basically said, Hildebrandt, yeah, he does Hobbits and The Lord of the Rings, yeah. But there hasn't been a good pinup painter for a while, and I'm not interested. She said, just take a look at this. I'll email it over to you. And just in your own time, I don't care, whatever, next week, I don't care. Just let me know. So she's emailed it over to Lou. In a matter of minutes, he called her back and said he liked it a lot. And he said he thinks it's one of the best he's seen lately for quite a while. And then, so he wanted to come and see it. He wanted us to bring it in and see it live. And I had already, by this point in my own, I started to sketch out several other ideas. And then, so Jean and I talked about it, and I said, well, let me finish a couple more. Let me finish about 2 or 3 more, and we'll take them in. So I did that. And Jean made it. What she did, though, we were working on all kinds of other projects, and that's how we make our living, just like everybody else does. And she had to clear the decks away to make it possible for me to only focus on these pinup paintings. So she handled all that, all the economics surrounding it, and let me free.
Okay, so she had total buy-in then on this project. She could make it work.
1,000,000,000%. She got totally behind it, and it would have never happened if you did. And so I finished these 4 paintings off, and I was really anxious. I brought them in. We drove into the city and brought them into Meisel's gallery, and he was down on his knees studying them closely, and I'm nervous. You're sweating. Like, geez, don't look too close. You get all anxious and everything. You're moving into a whole brand new territory, and I know that every territory that I moved in on like that, like with the comic industry, when I went over to Marvel, I was very anxious that they would accept my work because it's brand new. I've never done this before, even though I have a long career and people know my work, but they don't know this work,
Yeah, something new.
He liked it. He said, how about a show? And we said, great. And he said, what, 2 years? Because he needs 25 paintings to do a one-man show, right? So Gene said, no. This end of the year. We got 1 year. And so he said, well, this is impossible. Said, well, no, it's not impossible, Gene said. So we went home, and we came back, and Gene again cleared the whole decks for a whole year, and I produced 25 paintings. He gave me a show. And then that was it. It was pretty successful. He then he had another show set up to do with a mixed pinup crowd, different people from around the different countries, in France and elsewhere. In downtown Manhattan, that's where the gallery is. Then 9/11 happened, and that instantly stopped that show for sure. And the whole city closed down, and the art business really went down pretty low. So that was it. I had that one show with him, but mainly it was Gene who took up the ball to move me forward into this whole arena of pinup art, to make sure that the world was going to see this. And you're dealing with a kind of a negative conversation from certain people. It's like, because they knew me for, I just done a whole bunch of Marvel stuff, so they knew that, the superhero stuff. They knew me for the Lord of the Rings work I did with my brother, and that Star Wars poster, and they might have known me for children's book I did back in the 70s, golden books and all that kind of business. But pinup art? What's this? Hildebrandt's doing pinup art? I don't get it. Again, it's this need or want, or I don't know what it is. People kind of have to pigeonhole and categorize. Oh, you do this. Oh, you do this.
Yeah, you have to be easily defined.
Right. Oh, you're a conservative. Oh, you're a liberal. That kind of shit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
which I
Yeah.
don't buy anything about. I accept no labels in terms of categorization other than human being and artist. And certainly in an
Yeah.
artist, the desire all my life was just there's too much stuff going on in the world to land on one thing. There's just too much stuff going on. So
Yeah.
it was not an easy sell globally. Finally, it starts to catch on. People start to accept it. It took quite a while.
Yeah. Now,
So,
how many this this series that you got? We call it the American Beauty series, right? Which we'll discuss that name here in a moment. But how many do you have going on now? So you've been doing it for like 20 years. You're still doing pinups.
oh yeah,
Um,
regularly. Yeah, I'm working on one now. I'm finishing one off. I'll be done with it in 2 days. It's let me see. I don't know. There's 112. Gene just told me. I've
so,
112 finished paintings, but I got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. Keep adding that on drawings that I've done
yeah.
in the genre. I've got blackboard renderings. I render with Prismacolor pencils on black illustration board. Black, series of grays, and so it's a black and white and gray rendering. I've done lots of those. So yeah, it's continuous. I just keep at it for 1999. Yeah. That's when I started, and I got my show at my cells in 2000.
Yeah. So I want to ask you this question just about like with what you're doing, because there's the fantasy pinup illustration you talked about that, is in the fantasy art, but you came into wanting to do strictly pinup, but still kept that approach of storytelling, putting them in a scene. And, we'll have to link this up after the show so people, if they want to look for this stuff, they can see it. But, looking through the course of your 112 pinup paintings, the one thing that I don't see that would tie it to earlier pinup styles is the whoopsie shot. You know what I mean by that?
Yeah.
That I'm peeking in on something that
birds blowing up and
not supposed to be seeing or whatnot.
Yeah.
You've kind of dismissed the accidental view and have said, this is what it is. This is where we are now.
Yes.
Was that something you did consciously?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Jean being a very powerful woman, is not going to take any crap as far as this kind of like second-rate citizen type shit. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
The women are in charge, man. That's the way I see it, because I've always been connected to a part. My mother was an extremely strong, powerful lady that I respected and loved immensely, and she didn't take any crap from anybody. She was a very bright person, and Jean is incredible in that sense. So these women are powerful to me. They're running the show. That's the way I see it. They're not secondary. They're not. They are in charge. And hey, look, I've been drawing them since I was a kid. Girls, I've been drawing guys. I've been drawing superheroes. So I mean, to me, there's beauty is beauty, no matter what. I mean, there's beauty in a garbage can, So and there's So, but people try to categorize again. Oh, you're exploiting women. Well, do I exploit trees when I paint them? Do I exploit clouds when I paint them? Do you know what I'm saying? It's like there's a what did Betty Page say? The model. God invented Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve invented clothes. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's like there's nothing to be ashamed of here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's nothing about this. It's natural to me.
Well, I mean, it's the painting the nude figures throughout art history. As soon as art ceased being the means of telling, okay, here's the story of the hunter, or the story of the god, and started depicting things in a more realistic fashion or even unrealistic fashion. The nude has been there. It's from day one, really.
From the beginning. In the talk about pinup art, to me, if you were to go look at Sandro Botticelli's popularly called painting Venus on the half shell, but the birth of Venus, and tell me that's not a pinup.
Yeah.
So from the Renaissance on through, every picture called Venus, Venus, the birth of Venus, Venus at Bath, Venus, they're pinup girls. I mean, there's no two ways about it. You disguise it by calling it, a mythological name, and that goes on all the way up through the French and English Academy painters, Bouguereau and Lord Leighton.
Yeah.
They were painting these nudes themes, which were generally mythological, but they were pinups, and in no uncertain terms. That's they didn't call them that yet, and they wouldn't directly call them that till where America, I guess, right?
Yeah, until finally someone said, it is what it is.
Yeah.
We gotta. All right. We have a question over here that someone, Chris, is asking about when's the book coming out. Now, I'm not exactly sure which book he's referring to. I know you have a Marvel book coming out. Yeah. Do you have a pinup book at all?
Well, we've been talking about it. Yeah, I mean, that's on the boards. I don't know when. Now given COVID and everything,
the situation that the world's in.
So, but no, it's there. My son-in-law in Switzerland published a small book on my black and white pinup art. So, and we have a few of those left, I think. But the big book is coming, and I can't say exactly.
Okay.
I don't know.
All right. Sorry, I before that scrolled away, I wanted to, if there was a book on the immediate horizon or anything like that, I wanted to get the word out. So, we've lost all pretense of drawing the nude figure and just saying it is what it is. We're painting women,
Yeah, that's what it is. And to me,
again, you contextualize them into scenes, where you said, the women, for the most part, across your series are in control of their situation, with
there's
the rare exception.
But the few that aren't, I science gone wild. It's like I love playing with those themes mainly from the point of view of the humor, for the satirical aspect of them, the satirical pulp quality of that. That appeals to me. I think it's funny. It's almost like, to me now, Betty Page with the ball gags tied up in the trunk of a car. It's almost humorous. It's kind of like a put on.
Yes.
That's the way I choose to read it, and that's what I remember once I was given a talk about my pinup art, and someone in the audience, a woman, said she singled out that issue, that what she really liked about my work, the pinup stuff, was the humor that's there, and the satirical aspect of it, which I was glad that registered, because that's kind of like how I see a lot of them,
I mean, and that's it's clear that it reflects your personality to me. You're a very funny person. I don't know that I've ever seen you be serious for an extended period of time.
Well,
that's
because you don't see that side of me.
I mean,
right. Okay.
I mean, you're obviously serious about your work. You're serious about your commitment to getting the job done and the professionalism. That's not what I mean.
Yeah.
You like to have a joke at hand when all that stuff is going on.
Oh, absolutely. Right. I mean, humor is incredible.
And that, to me, it is reflected in these pinups. More so than any of the other, like the fantasy art or the comic stuff or anything like that. It comes through in the storytelling.
Yeah.
That and you do a lot of the sketches, like you said, of those old pulp magazines and the utter ridiculousness of this mad scientist. Like,
they're hysterical, man. I dig them. It's pure comedy. It's like it's a Mel Brooks movie. You know what I'm saying? It's like on that level. I find that very funny, and yet, I mean, don't take me wrong. I'm very serious too when it comes to it. Women's rights, equal rights. The Equal Rights Amendment has not even been passed yet. that I'm throwing that in. We watched a wonderful movie on Helen Reddy, which was, I Am Woman, that powerful song for the women's movement that they
Yeah.
adopted.
Yeah.
And we're watching women equal rights. And Jean's, when I say, well, when was that passed? And then we looked up, well, it's not even passed yet. Which to me, I see women. To me, I adulate on pedestals. I would like to see women running the entire planet, presidents, popes, you name it. I would really love to see that.
And I mean, I've heard you say that in private too, so I know you're not just putting it on.
This is totally.
I can't believe that. I didn't know that. You're informing me of something new right now. We have another question here that you kind of touched on, but we can go back to some Robbie. So Robbie, they're asking, did you worry about the potential risk, financial risk of leaving comics and fantasy to just set out on this new venture? And did we touched briefly on that of Gene getting involved and things like that. So was there a financial concern?
Oh
for
yeah,
you of
it's always there.
going out of the safe space?
Yeah, anytime you jump into the white space, the unknown,
Yeah.
you're taking a risk. But what the hell is life
Yeah.
about? If you don't take risks, you keep repeating yourself, you'll be dead. So I've never stopped. I mean, I've jumped in and out of so many categories. I mean, I started in animation. I made a lot documentary films for Fulton J. Sheen on world hunger. I wrote a illustrated children's books. I leapt into writing my own fantasy novel and pushing it forward and through the William Morris agency in Hollywood. Every one of those jumps is a risk. Yeah.
Yeah,
But,
and I think it would be appropriate to mention at this point is that one thing for you that mitigates that risk
is Gene.
is Gene.
Boom.
You have a brilliant business partner.
Oh, we met, what, 1979? She said, you paint and draw, I'll do everything else.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh my God. And that's how it's basically been. But don't take me wrong, everything else. She's deeply and personally involved with every picture I do.
Yeah.
People have always asked, when do you finish a painting? When do you say a painting's done? How do you know it's done? When Gene says it's done. That's exactly the way that works.
Yeah, and I think we would be remiss if we didn't say in that that's a very welcome relationship, and it's not an imposed like, oh well, I can't say that it's done until Gene says it's done. It's you just recognize that she has the eye.
She knows how to see. She's got the right kind of eyes to see. She knows a lot.
Yeah.
She majored in art in college. Her father was an architect. She knows what the hell she's talking about. It isn't like a critic who comes in who's never made something or done something and is going to give you their 2 cents worth. No way.
Yeah.
Very knowing, and 4 eyes or on any thing that you're working on that know what they're looking at are better than 2 eyes. You just see.
Yeah.
She sees things that I don't even see. You're obsessed with whatever you're working on over here, even just little pragmatic stuff, and you're not looking at this. Oh hell, the face is all, whatever. And it's more, but it's deeper and bigger than that too. It's choice of subjects. Yeah. Gene finds the models for me. She's there in the photo shoots. She's working with me in the photo shoots. We're all equal in that sense of making input and commentary. So yeah, she's completely totally involved with every aspect of it.
And it's an interesting dynamic where I think you're very different than probably most artists in that you've always had at least one other person very closely like ingrained in that process.
Yeah, well, my twin brother. Yeah.
Yeah, and so you, from the get-go, you were able to develop a sense of selflessness about your own art. I mean, obviously it's still very personal and you're very passionate and you have strong feelings about what you're putting down, but I've never gotten the sense from you and knowing you of, this is mine. You don't get to have an opinion. You can't have an opinion. Like I've never gotten that from you.
No,
It's
look at
you have a very humble.
I don't know. Well, no, you're right. I mean, I've collaborated, and don't take me wrong. It's like I'll get defensive. Gene will come in and say something, and it's coming out of the, once you start a painting, you're full steam ahead. There's this huge, great expectation and enthusiasm. For me, it's like I get into the painting 80%, and it's starting to say, all right, I want this thing over with now. It's there's never that complete satisfaction that you have,
Yeah.
And yeah, Gene's giving me notes here to make sure I push. And so when I get to that phase, I want it over with, and Gene will come in and see something about it. I'll react, and then of course when she leaves, she's right. I fix it, and I think I said this before. You read about great relationships with people. Diego Rivera and Frida Kahlo were the same way. They were both artists. She would come in and make observations about his work, especially the Detroit Art Museum mural that I've raved about the last time, that I grew up on. And he'll react. He reacted violently. She leaves. He looks. She's right. Fixes it.
Yeah.
I think there's been a lot of relationships like that. But there's this automatic defense sometimes that you have. But no, it's. And again, I worked in animation. So I worked in a studio type setup. That's how I started my career as a teenager. So you're used to that whole business.
You get used to the give and take aspect. Yeah. But I want to bring up that, you started doing those paintings, and she cleared the schedule to give you time.
Yep.
To do it, but then, and she took on the responsibility of generating the revenue. You make the picture, she generates the revenue, and she has obviously been very successful at, licensing those things, putting them on tin signs, putting them on Zippo lighters, a special deal with Zippo.
Here's one of the tin steel. They call them tin signs because the old ones were made out of tin, but these are made out of steel. Gene's worked with these company in, where is it, Gene? Nevada. And we do these, like I did this painting, and then we go into, and then these designers do the type and set all the types on them. And then sometimes there'll be no type on them. But yeah, she does all this stuff.
Is that,
right now we've got a Kickstarter going with Nick Barucci and Dynamite on Red Sonja. So
is that the notes she was passing you?
Yeah, that's the notes she was giving me to make sure, and that's going on right now.
Yeah.
And that
actually brings us back around. Hang on one second. I just totally stepped on you there. But that does bring us back around. You talked about heavy metal and the fantasy pinup.
Yep.
And we brought back around to this Red Sonja, which is kind of that fantasy pinup, right?
Well, very much fantasy, right? Going back.
And they've launched it on Kickstarter. Is that what you said?
Yeah, it's a Kickstarter. They're doing a whole bunch of products and everything. Yes, it's launched on Kickstarter right now. You can go over there, and so, it's I've never done that before. This is the first time I've ever done anything like that. So it's all brand new world to me. It's cool. It's great. But that's again all Gene's doing. She does all. Literally, I sit here and I focus either on my drawing board there or my easel here. That's all I do. Just sit there and do that. That's all I do. And it's like, even, you know what I mean? It's like I get coffee stains over everything upstairs in the kitchen, or and you know what I mean? And I kind of like, anyway, that's all I do. Gene does everything else. It's amazing.
Yeah. So with that, I know you don't have that image at all to show, right? The Red Sonja.
Do we have that image, Gene? The Red Sonja?
The Red Sonja?
Yeah.
I don't have the painting.
Do we have a print or anything?
So people that are on, if anybody's watching from Facebook, we posted some links to that Kickstarter today on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and all that. So if you want to see what we're talking about with the Kickstarter, just look at any of our Facebook pages, the Spiderweb Art page, Greg's page, whoever's page, it's there. You can see what we're talking about.
I'm bending out of
But
the
you-
page, I'm looking for stuff.
Yeah, no, we don't have anything, Greg.
We don't have it here.
Yeah, we don't.
Well, a whole other category. Wait a minute. I can't find the damn thing. Wait a minute. Hold on for a second.
What are you looking for?
Well, I wanted to talk about. I had it, but I don't know where it is right now. Another aspect of my pinup art that I've been doing is I've been painting on World War II fighter planes. You remember in the Second World War, the guys would paint. They would open up Esquire magazine, say, and there would be a Vargas painting, and they would with house paint. Literally, Sherman-Williams house paint was the paint of choice. They improve the quality, put some linseed oil in it, and then they paint these pinups real fast with the name of their plane or some slogan or something. They would alter the pinup art. But so there's these couple of collectors out in Texas that have these incredible collections of World War II fighter planes that they all fly. And the first one I painted on was a P-38 Lightning. And that is a trip. I mean, for me, again, I was a kid when I can remember the war, and I remember certainly drawing Terry and the Pirates, dogfight scenes out of the newspaper back in the war, and to walk into these hangars and see these planes that were in the Second World War and realize that there they are, the real thing, was really incredible. It was a great experience.
Now, how did that come about? Did that come about like as a commission, or like
a friend?
So
a friend who knew.
Sorry, Greg. Go ahead.
No, a friend a gallery owner in California, knew my pinup art. Talked to somebody. I forgot exact connection. Gene knows all the details of it. Had a connection to somebody that knew this person who had these planes, and connected me in that sense. So he saw the pinup art and wanted me to paint on his plane. He wanted more or less a reconstruction. And as soon as I saw the painting that was on there from the old days, he had a photo of the original plane, Second World War, and I instantly knew that was an Alberto Vargas pose that I remember from Esquire magazine, because I actually had the Esquire magazine, the actual magazine.
Yeah.
And so I said, that's Vargas. And so, yes. And so I said, yeah, I mean, it'd be incredible to reconstruct it. I said, I don't want to copy the Vargas. I got something. I'm not going to just copy his painting. I'll pose a model of my own choosing in that pose with slight subtle variations, more original, which he went along with. So I did that. And then we worked all from a distance. I'm getting a little, need some water here. Back and forth, sending and finally arriving at the final. And Gene again managed this whole thing, set it all up, shipped all my paint, everything to Eagle Pass, Texas, which is right near the border of Mexico. This guy had huge, many acres in this airline. These hangars he had constructed after being in England. He wanted these old classic airplane hangars. You get there and they're filled with, 40 planes that he had. And so I painted, that's the first one. And then these guys go to fly-ins around the country, show their planes off and everything.
Yeah.
And he went to one show and another collector was there and saw that pinup. So he hired me to paint on his plane. And, so I painted on several of them individual. A doctor out in California wanted one. And that was painted on a Mustang, World War II Mustang. That's a whole other game.
And I've seen like not only then painting on the planes, but people have then commissioned you to do pinups, like with like a woman with their car, or
that's a whole after going back a little bit to 9/11, when that happened and the art market dropped out. Jean, then it became her business, and well, mine too, but she was the one that handled it all, to find new outlets, to find a new market. And so she ends up with Barrett Jackson, which is a car auction in Florida, Scottsdale, Arizona. And so she connected with them, and you take a booth at the auction. Artists take booths and all kinds of people selling all kinds of other stuff. and she took a booth at the Florida show first at West Palm Beach, and I went there with the focus on the pinup uh, a girl with cars, different classic cars.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
yeah, at those shows we've done many of them since then. 2008, I think, was the first one. We get commissions. You know, a
Now,
man who has an art collection will want his car painted with his wife. You know, that kind of thing.
yeah. And now, has that kept? Because this whole pinup series started off of you doing you, essentially. Something you wanted to do. No one really had any input on what was going on in the subject matter, anything like that. But to make it a profitable business, you
Now you turn
you opened it up to taking commissions and doing on planes.
absolutely,
And
yeah,
yeah. So again, answering the guy's question of being willing to stretch your bounds and move away from just you doing you to make it a commercial endeavor.
yep,
At the end of the day, you're doing art, but it's still a business that
absolutely.
you have to function. But let me ask you, with those commissions, are you commissioned and someone says, okay, Greg, I want you just to give me a pinup, paint whatever you want, or is it more of I want you to paint a pinup and this is exactly what I want?
Right.
Or
Well, it's all over. One collector, very serious, fantastic people in Scottsdale he wanted his wife painted, and she was fantastic. She was what, 60, I think, right, G? And she was beautiful, and he wanted her painted with his one of his cars. He picked a Corvette that he had, the classic Corvette, and so we went out there and we worked it all out, and he had a very specific idea of what he wanted, and that was great, and it was fun. We just played with the whole thing. You know what I'm saying? And that's generally certain other ones. He wanted his wife, and she was very hesitant, even though she had been a model at a point, but she was older now, and people get I guess self-conscious age wise, and so I pretty much came up with the subject for them, given her past and who she was, and he knew the car that he had a particular car that he wanted in the painting, and given who she was, like I think she was in showbiz, and so I kind of come up with my own concept of almost a Busby Berkeley background. He was a great, musical director, film guy back in the day with these elaborate sets and everything. So I came up with that setup because the car was what was the name of that car again, Gene? It was a Rolls Royce boat tail. Boat tail. It was like wood on the back, like old classic wooden boats combination with the metal.
Yeah.
Really a totally far out car. And that was fun. People say, how the hell can you sit there and paint those cars? I mean, isn't that boring? No, they're freaking incredible. All the reflections and the chrome. I mean, everything turns me on. Painting clouds, painting chrome, painting women. It's all a turn on. Everything is fantastic. The universe is fantastic.
Yeah, I've been watching you paint and talking to you. It's like, yeah, you have the subject matter there, right? It's this, but you get into not just, okay, I'm painting a car, but you get into how the light hits the bumper and how it reflects,
yes,
and the way that how you manipulate the brush stroke to get this look and to get it to look shiny and all that stuff, and not looking at it as I'm doing a car.
Yeah, no, to me it's a challenge. It's exciting. You're painting a red car under a bright sunny day with a blue sky, and you see that blue sky reflected on that red metal, and you're analyzing that. I love the scientific approach: observation, analysis, execution. I love to study and analyze what the hell's going on. I have to in order to know how to paint it. So, what color do I use to paint the blue on the red? I just can't take the blue sky color and mix it with red. That'll turn to mud. So I have to analyze and see, that looks magenta. We all know technically that's how the color wheel works. You go from blue to red. I'm getting technical, I know now. Purple's in the middle. Magenta. you use that, and it's whoa, it's beautiful. You know, once you see that combination, that's exciting to me.
Yeah.
That's why I paint. You know.
Awesome. So, hey man, that's a good place for us to wrap it this week. But so we got to do our financials.
Yeah.
All right. This is where we do our financials. Again, we're gonna Dynamite Entertainment, the Red Sonja Kickstarter. You can find it on Dynamite's Facebook page. You can find it on any of the Spiderweb art pages on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We've posted links today to be able to get there. It's a really cool cover that we didn't talk about too much. The homage to Star Wars in that. But that's another conversation, which we then want to promote. We don't have the details yet, but everybody stay tuned that you are going to be doing another live stream with someone from Dynamite, right?
Yep.
Is Gene there? Does Gene have
Gene.
Tuesday night, Billy Tucci, 8 o'clock.
Tuesday night, Billy Tucci, 8 o'clock.
All right. So there's going to be a live stream there. And then we also want to point out that where you can find and purchase not only these beautiful paintings of Mr. Hildebrandt's, but the products that brilliant businesswoman over there figured out how to make money from. The 10 signs that we know are steel, the books, the calendars, you name it, spiderwebart.com. We hope you enjoyed this show, everyone. Check us out on Facebook and Instagram and the YouTubes. And we hope you come back next week for our show. Have a good night.
Fantastic. Next week.
Yep. See you, Greg.
And what would you like me to do now, Keith?
Command 4, Gene. Command 4.
Look at
Got
Keith.
it.